Alright, so today I wanted to take a look at the Fusion University versus Second Wind Contenders Semifinals match. Specifically, I'm going to be mostly looking probably at Second Wind because there's some really great stuff that they did that really wasn't mentioned and really wasn't highlighted to the point that it should have been. Don't get me wrong, Fusion University is probably the better team. I think that has been shown. If you know who wins, it's been shown. But amazing gameplay and some big brain stuff came out of Second Wind, so I definitely think that it's worth looking at.
Take a look across the aisle. Second Wind, fried winner. Those crispy, delectable fried wins. Yes. He also comes up with massive bombs.
So one of the first plays to look at right here is the fact that Second Wind started rotating their diva around while keeping the majority of their core pushed way up. And what ended up crazy about this, and it's exactly how you would want it to go. So Diva can set up a crossfire and can quickly boost her jet back here if she would like, but the team can actually engage kind of as that smaller goat's core still, because you don't necessarily need the Diva for the initial survival right here, right? Not when there's so much cover and it's so easy to fall back. Could they have gotten punished for this? Yes, 100%. But I love what they do because they use their initial goat's core. This was kind of blamed on Fusion University that their supports were too far back, whatever, but it wasn't their support's fault at all. They used their initial goat's core to essentially just shoot past the shield. Like, that's why we see Snillo have to Brig Bash to get away, because there's so much damage coming past the Ryan shield, and they use the Diva to add on to that, and it literally makes it so that Elk and Alarm cannot rotate the way that they need to. Could Elk have? Yes, but Alarm wouldn't have made it, and this would have been a lost fight with more alt charge given anyway. And so I love that Second Wind set this up. It's so clear here that all of the damage, and is going past the shield here. We can see it all still. And there they are, just pushing forward because these two couldn't rotate. That was not the fault of Elk and Alarm not rotating. It was they could not rotate. They had two choices. They died or they died.
And that's the thing here, Fusion University, taking, a very quick first fight loss, but I'm really hoping that this isn't going to be indicative of their level of play. You saw Alarm and Elk maybe getting a little too comfortable. They were expecting Second Wind to be facing Fusion head-to-head, but the Second Wind squad noticed those two, free, juicy supports just off in the pasture by themselves. Sped boost in, took them out really early, and then that's a 3-1 fight here.
So this is nice, just high-level gameplay stuff for anyone to notice. Second Wind are holding here, and they use both of their bubbles to make sure that their Zarya is going to be at 100% charge, and maybe just get some light damage. The Zen can hit a few orbs, get closer to his Transcendence, whatever, and then they speed back to point to let their bubbles go back up. Great stuff to make sure that they're always at high charge and have a massive advantage versus a Zarya that's currently going to be 0 charge.
And so nice trying to get up to that graviton surge, asserting a little bit.
This is obviously pretty scripted or practiced right here too, which is beautiful. Ryan holding the middle, which is very common, but they have almost everyone holding this left doorway here and shooting down it, but they have Zen shooting down this right doorway here, and Zen is honestly oftentimes enough to hold this doorway by himself, and so it's very nice, very practiced, and it's just clear. It's, even if it does nothing else, it's a nice time buying, and it means they can't push through any door without taking some sort of damage at least. So there you can see it was really just Zen shooting down here. Zarya is gonna right click either door. It puts you in a terrible spot when they do that, because what your team really needs to do And what it's unfortunate that Fusion University didn't do is you don't fight through both of these doors when that's going on. You actually go ahead and rotate your team, not a big rotation, not what you're thinking. Rotate your team so that you're all here, and then your goat's core pushes through this door at the same time. As long as you can keep your shield up enough, the Zen isn't going to get you, and everything is going to be fine, generally speaking. But pushing through these doors separately is terrible, because what it allows them to do is Ryan will push through this door, and even if they can just hold Ryan off with, say, their Ryan, Zarya, or Lucio, Diva, if they can just hold him there for a second, they don't have to win, they don't have to lose. And we're going to watch this real quick again. You'll see this health bar was going low during that fight because they weren't really intending to win this fight. They're winning this fight, where it's a full charge Zarya versus a support or two. So check this out here.
That particle barrier on themselves. So Toxic also trying to get to that Earth Shatter. So you got to check those.
And look at this. Fusion University feels like they should win this, looking at health bars. Bubbles have been used. Fusion University hasn't really used all of theirs. It feels like Fusion University should win this, but because they chose to push supports through this door here, they're going to get punished. And you can see it right here. They tried to... It's short, so it's tough, but they tried to push with Diva, Lucio through this door here, and everyone else through this door here. There's Lucio. There's Diva.
Yeah, having that Lucio is super important right here as Fusion University beating a very quick retreat, even without their speedy frogs. It keeps you from being able to engage quickly, but also able to disengage quickly. Chongsik taking the brunt of all of that burst. Frill gets the final blow, and again,
I have to assume that the plan here, I mean, I can't read Fusion University's mind, but I have to assume that the plan here was that the rally armor would allow them to get out without staggering, and then they would get to keep it because the new patch hasn't hit yet. But it didn't really go that way. And even so, I don't necessarily agree with that. Winning the Brig v Brig is such a better use of the rally armor right now.
Yeah, Bernard didn't want to give any more ult charge to a Fried there. So Fusion University, like you said, we're past the halfway point with second win, and second win hasn't had to really try that hard to take these points just yet.
We haven't really seen any ultimates pop besides Frill's rally. Haku still holding on to that.
And again, the exact same thing. And it's not that this is like big brain, like, oh, they're the only contenders team doing this. I'm more so pointing this out so that you guys can bring this knowledge into your team or bring this into your comp games. Here they all are, making sure everyone is firing shots off to get ult charge and using both bubbles.
To take these points just yet.
We haven't really seen any ultimates pop besides Frill's rally. Haku still holding on to that transit to Cleanser, close with the sound berry too. However, Fusion themselves will have a Graviton Surge online. Nice waiting for the perfect moment to drop it.
So now you'll see, this is what I was talking about earlier, and I don't know if it actually goes through like this. I don't exactly remember, but this is what needs to happen. And it's tough. It's a fight that you have to win, and a lot of it's going to come from your micros that you've practiced with goats, but it's crazy that they would ever separate like they did earlier.
But as long as Haku stays safe, second win.
So here you go. They're all going to push through here now.
First time we'll see those ultimates come out here on Liaison Towers. The Earth Shatter not going to get anything. The Transcendence was there just in case. A second one also going to throw out their Graviton Surge as well. The self-destruct will be getting Chongsik, so there is no Reinhardt available for Fusion University. They do have 3 more ults to work with, and they have to use them right now. And so Fried, though, going to even things up with a kill there as well.
It's honestly such a bummer the way that Second Wind played that, because there was no reason that they needed to lose it. I mean, it's very common, but the feeling is, oh, we grabbed and we've invested to this fight, so we need to use our other alts too. And I just don't necessarily agree that like that Diva Bomb should have been thrown there. Elk's boop was awesome though. It was awesome. I mean, Elk is awesome in general, but
for those self-destructs. We've seen a lot of great stuff for him, and he's going to have the sound barrier to lay down should Akawa shatter his team.
And so Fusion University are coming in.
and you'll see once again Fusion University was at least playing the exact same way, playing up there to make sure that Zarya maintains charge and farming ults, and then they fall back to point. And that's a great play from Fusion University. Don't ever underestimate how great this play was. Save your sound barrier for the enemy ults that are coming, but you know for a fact that they don't have everything yet, so go ahead and throw your Transcendence, and when that Transcendence is thrown, the entire team collapses on the Rhine. I mean, a fantastic play. If you have both support ults available to you, that's like textbook using one of them as an offensive ult.
Toxic could get an Earth Shatter if things go well for them. Second win also a little bit farther away from their ultimates.
Just watch how they all collapse. So they realized that they weren't really shattered, and literally everyone is collapsing. Every single person. The Lucio is adding damage.
Definitely one of those ultimates that you're going to throw out, see what you can get. It builds up quite quickly, especially if Mira gets a good grab.
If you were second wind here, you really shouldn't be concerned at all about what's going on here. You know that you're going to be getting ults up. You know Fusion University is going to be getting ults too, but you just need to be confident that you can outplay one attack, so you shouldn't be concerned yet. There shouldn't be a mental thing playing in at all, and if there is, it should be playing against Fusion University. So that's always a nice advantage to have. And again, it's the same thing. I just have not liked either of the grabs here. It's just unfortunate, but both of them did not get what they needed them to get. I mean, Elk didn't even have to sound barrier in the grab until at the end, and it was honestly a choice. He didn't end up needing to even. Like that second grab was just so much better.
Yeah, second win only need one more clean fight, but that has not been in their sights so far. Really good shield bash from Snillo. Got that kill with Bernard's bomb onto Akawa. So second win now starting to run out of time. They don't have any ultimates up just yet.
So now second wind is just hoping that their Ana can get a crazy nade. That's their win condition for this last fight.
Shield bash from Snillo. Got that kill with Bernard's bomb onto Akawa. So second win now starting to run out of time. They don't have any ultimates up just yet, but Fried has that bomb. We've seen miracles before, but it's going to be so much harder to Ponzer's down.
Yeah, no Lucio for second win means that's a lot less healing for that team as Fusion University.
It's up just yet, but Fried has that bomb. We've seen
I don't understand. I didn't see the nade come out at all.
Got that kill.
No reason for the nade to have been used so far. Maybe it gets thrown here and I just missed it. I don't see the nade get thrown out at all before the pin, and so that's crazy. When the two Ryans charged into each other and they were both knocked down, the anti-nade should have been thrown there. Yes, there is a decent chance that the D.Va is going to eat it and expect it, but that's really the best chance you're probably going to get this entire fight. Even if you could have hit this wall or something, there's clean ways to do it.
Yeah, no Lucio for second win means that's a lot less healing for that team. Much harder to Ponzer's down. Yeah, no Lucio for second win means that's a lot less healing for University are going to be functioning at
It's
the
tough.
numbers advantage through overtime, and with these kills, they will be wrapping this up once they clean up the point. Fusion University
Yeah, and
struggled
then
at the start of this control
yeah, I
round.
mean, I understand anyone who just says, oh, it would have just been 8 anyway. But if that's what you're worried about, then why don't you just throw it through the window? You're not going to be guaranteed to get a hit, but you may hit someone, where not throwing it at all when there's not going to be a better opportunity is such a bad call.
With these kills, they will be wrapping this up once they clean up the point. Fusion University struggled at the start of this control round, but they really brought it back, getting all 100% after they flipped it.
Place to. Where did that Rhine Shield go? Well, he was.
The last in the air, but it seems to happen all the time. And so Fusion University feeling good after leading that off with a round win. Second win's got to be feeling.
And again, pro plays know this. That's not who I'm speaking to, but I love seeing the May on this map. It's so easy to get a wall off in the white room, and it basically forces your opponents to play in the main room by the point. And even there's some good wall opportunities. There is some good range for May to get her icicles off. If May is a niche pick, she's a niche pick for this map. It's fantastic.
A little bad about that one, as they were in control for the majority of that round, but then gave it up and couldn't take it back. But now we're seeing nice on that May. We saw it in the highlight reel a little earlier. Those walls are beneficial, and he is pretty good on that accuracy as well. Let's see how fast it's going to be to get to that blizzard, as the Kaba is going to be bullied off at the point, but Nice is flanking off to the side, making it so their focus is going to be switched between both of them, as the wall is going to block some of second win away from being that group of 6 that you need to be a GOATS comp. Fusion University, though, look at Chong Sick without the armor pack. That could have been a bad news bears for Fusion University, but so far no kills. There's a shield dash onto Chong Sick, and his health is low, but second win are unable to actually confirm that kill. But finally, Chong Sick does go down.
It's a big bummer for second wind, because like right here, like you know now that the wall has been used. Heal up your main tank and you can hit him pretty hard. And even here too, like I was just waiting to see if something changed. Like right at the start of the fight, the May from Fusion University gets zoned out over here, has now zoned themselves out, and stays over here for an extended amount of time. So I really have to wonder why second wind did not collapse on them. I don't know if they just didn't realize, but they definitely could have gotten a kill.
And he is pretty good on that accuracy as well. Let's see how fast it's going to be to
Like
get
literally just totally zoned out right now. And I understand it's hard to push into the white room, like Fusion University played that well, going back to the white room while they know that they don't have their May, but it's still unfortunate. Even if they could have collapsed in the May, made her ice block right here, she's probably going to be in a bad spot when she gets out of her ice block. It's unfortunate that they played this like normal GOATs still, where they were just kind of engaging in the shield war, waiting for the big fight.
that blizzard, as the Kaba is going to be bullied off at the point, but Nice is flanking off to the side, making it so their focus is going to be switched between both of them, as the wall is going to block some of
And this is what I meant. So the wall goes down here, and they are not even close to white. Like, you could so easily collapse on them, and they don't. They take their minute to group back up.
That could have been a bad news bears for Fusion University, but so far no kills. There's a shield dash onto Chong Sick, and his health is low, but second winner are unable to actually confirm that kill. But finally, Chong Sick does go down. He was on the brink for the majority of that fight, but Alarm still has a transcendence. There isn't one on second wind's side, so if he chooses to use it, Bernard can use a graviton surge as well, or he can do it the old-fashioned way.
That's so unfortunate. Second wind, I don't want to say they had won this fight because that's a very difficult fight to win, but they totally split. Totally. I mean, this is ridiculous. Ryan, Lucio, D.Va getting the health pack back here. Brig. I mean, that's very unfortunate that they were so spread out like that.
There isn't one on second wind's side, so if he chooses to use it, Bernard can use a graviton surge as well, or he can do it the old-fashioned way, getting 3 kills, not on that D.Va, but on the Zarya.
Yeah, Frill right there goes down in the middle of a sea of green bodies, overextended just a little bit, chasing that kill onto Bernard.
Yeah, I don't know if Second Wind played that at the end there, like they were cleaning up, but it was still a very real fight.
Nice can even throw this blizzard out at the choke. And second wind, this is a really hard little doorway to break out of. Fusion University can grab them, blizzard them. They can just throw in the trance, and all of the damage would be for naught for second wind. And Akawa, oh no,
and you guys can see again. Mention this for regular players. We'll say, as soon as this wall goes up, they break the middle pillar. Those pillars only have 500 health. You have to break them when you're playing with your teams.
Damage would be for naught for second
Look
wind.
how fast that middle pillar is down.
And Akawa, oh no, that is exactly what you want to avoid.
Yeah, and Haku used the Transcendence as well to try to save his main tank, but there was no success.
And for people who don't get this, what Second Wind is trying to do here is they're trying to go through these really small doorways, because what they can then do is they can speed through them, or they can oftentimes bait them out, and it's perfect. It's much better than, it can be better than going through a bigger doorway where it might be easier to wall you off, and where it's harder to speed your team through. And then think about this room here, this small room behind us. If they had missed the wall, and if Second Wind could push in, well then they're a full goats comp pushing in against a 5-man goats comp, and so they would have won that fight. It's fantastic if it works. It's kind of like a one-time try thing though. Sometimes it depends, but if you think you're gonna get outplayed on the wall, then it's a one-time play thing.
For a little while longer.
Not just yet. Taponzer might have to drop this sound barrier to usher Second Wind onto the point. Fusion University so far have been holding pretty aggressively. The safer point is going to be on the objective itself, but now they have forced Second Wind to take a different route of engagement. They're going to be rotating all the way around on those.
So I don't know if you saw that, the May missed her wall, exactly what she wanted. Now the team, Fusion University, fall back because they know what they're doing. They're a very good team, but it at least allowed them to get to White Room, where it's so much harder to get walled off if you're coming from the mid. You see the wall doesn't even cover it.
We've seen this pattern before. If Toxic dies first, the rest of the team can as well. And that's what we're seeing Second Wind do just now, as we are going to finish off Elk in the end. And so this is a 5v3 for Second Wind right now. They still have some good ultimates from the next fight as well. If they clean this up, they got to get rid of the May.
Yeah, got to get rid of the May. Might be a 99% take for Fusion University. Indeed, Elk, you saw him throw out that sound barrier, trying to save his team from the self-destruct. Sound barrier is good for that negating that burst damage, whereas trance is going to be healing over time, about 300 HP per second. So good usage there. It didn't quite work out for Fusion University, but again, they're now in that one and done fight territory. Bernard's grab could end everything.
So Bernard's going to be looking for some good value there. Is Haku, though, going to get the first pick onto Snildo? So Second Wind have a 6v5 for the time being. Is Fusion University going to go ahead and invest that Graviton Surge from Bernard on the
And that was nice from Bernard. You can see the winner is facing the wrong direction, and so it's a perfect grab. 8 this way, and then turns around that way. Perfect. You can do whatever you want. And what winner was probably thinking is, I'm going to flick this way and back, kind of to try and bait him, try and big brain him, but nope. Grab the wall and you're good.
Because of that blizzard damage, so Fusion University have an opening to take this point right back, but the focus is not quite there. They're really trying to chase this May off of the
Keep in mind, Second Wind would love to reset here, but they can't because this is their last fight.
Take this back. Fusion University do flip it. We have entered overtime with Elk's kill onto Brill. Fusion University do have a numbers advantage for the time being. Second Wind also, their health bar is getting very, very low. That charge onto Elk is going to feel good for, your emotions, but it's not going to result in a victory here on Lijiang Tower, as Fusion University have quelled Second Wind and taken the first map.
From
Fusion University, I mean, just 100% outplayed them there. There's no doubt, there's no second thought, there's nothing. They used that May, and they outplayed them 100%. With that first map, I hope that you could see some of what I was referring to. Second Wind had some really nice plays that were really well thought out.
As well, coming into another matchup with another great Reinhardt. This one, though, going to be hyper aggressive, going to get those Earth Shatters very, very fast.
Yeah, most likely here, but he just cannot go down too early. No mercies on the side of Second No free do-overs, no resurrections. Fusion University on the defense here. Second wind. Hey, hey, what do we see here? It's the second win version of the 3-3. No Brigida online, but we do have Frill on the Ana. This is what they brought out yesterday as well. Great effectiveness with that Ana burst healing. You can see
for anyone that hasn't seen this comp quite yet, this is a comp that I'd say mostly Reddit has been touting as the replacement to GOATs. Ana, Lucio, and Zen, instead of Zen, Lucio, and Brig. And the reason why is because Brig has endured her Brig was really taking the spot of a DPS who can heal in this comp. But now that Brig has endured her damage nerfs, her bash nerfs, all of it, there's a kind of school of thought that having three very strong supports, can give you more time in the fight. So while you're losing a little bit of damage, you get that. While you're trading off the armor, you get full advantage of the not having to choose. So you can have the Discord as well as the anti-nade, as well as the sleep, as well as and it really puts a lot of pressure on the other team's diva and the other team's Zarya, because while in the old case it may have been, oh, I need to save my defense matrix for a grav, it's, oh, I need to save it for a grav, but I also need to eat the anti-grenades. And then for the Zarya, it's the same thing. Oh, I need to use my bubble here to help my Rhine swing more, but then what if when he's done swinging he gets anti'd and I can't cleanse him? And so it really throws off the traditional GOAT's thinking. That's one of its strongest suits. And so I personally have liked seeing it. I don't think that it is as strong as Brig GOAT still.
Ticking up closer and closer to that nano boost. You do lose that shield bash, that ability to control the front line that you get with the Brigida, but you have so much area control with that Bionade, and you can keep those beefy tanks up and alive so much more easy.
Yeah, as you see these two teams using those particle barriers and that amp it up to make sure that their Reinhardts and their tanks are still alive, and Frill almost at 50% for that nano. Once he gets that, you'll see Second Wind pull the trigger and possibly engage Fusion University completely, or if they get a pick onto Elk, who is very low. He looks like he will be getting to a safety. Look at this battle. These Reinhardts on the payload that's waiting for him right now, just swinging their hammers against each other, but Chongsik really getting ahead on that Earthshatter's alarm, going to get the first pick, and that just feels so right for Fusion University. He's almost a DPS player. Second Wind struggling to maintain any sort of presence on at this point, but with this nano boost, though, they're going to even things up. That is 2 kills for Second Wind, and a sleeping Zarya is vulnerable to
nice play, risky play, but nice play.
As well, so this Ana pick really paying off for Second Wind. It was looking bad. They pretty much lost the fight, but hey, Grandma says hello.
Yep.
Yep.
Hello, greetings, and instead of a little bit of money in your Christmas card, you get a big fist to the face. Frill really showing up there. What a fast nano boost charge. I really like.
And it can be really tough when you're... I want to kind of look at the Ana play here, because that's what they were doing as well, and that's what is different about this comp. So the first thing you can see is that at first Frill kind of wants to play back here, right? And that's fine, because they have to cross your entire team to get to you. But as soon as they call it they're rotating, Frill actually moves with his tank comp to here, and eventually back behind this corner. Because what Fusion University can do is they can kind of zone out the Ana. Even if they don't necessarily go for Frill, once they have this high ground, if Frill is still back here, A, they can kill him very easy if they want. B, he's zoned out. It's the end of the story. He can't get all the value he needs, especially if you can start to make the rest of Second Wind like back into like this area, then Frill can't even see them. And so it's a fantastic play. The Ana starts to rotate right away. As soon as you'll see this. So they call now. Yep, looks like they're going high ground. And Frill is like, okay, I'm going to go this way. Where are they now? Okay, they're dropping down from high ground. I'm going to go back here. Simple enough and beautiful play. Because if it would have been a fake out, if they would have came back down the stairs, Frill could have actually stayed here. It would have just been different, right? But beautiful that they saw, okay, they're rotating, I'm moving here. Okay, they're on the top, I'm moving here. And what you'll see is that Frill excellently can land his anti-nades here, because he could even just throw it at these two, and no one can help them. The tank, these two were also kind of zoned off from the diva, and no one can help them. It's fantastic that they've now gotten split for the Ana goats. And what you can actually see from the bullet trail is that Frill has actually backed up into the room back here. So now Frill comes up here, and from one perspective it's like, whoa, what are you thinking? You're being risky. But what you're actually going to see is plays this corner and throws an anti-nade at them, and that really can win them the fight right there. Done. So you'll see, even when Frill did that, there was a critical Ryan next to them. And that's what you need to understand. The Ana isn't necessarily in this comp for the extended healing. I actually kind of hate that the announcer said, oh yeah, the Ana provides them so much more healing, and because that's not really why the Ana is totally here. Is it an advantage if I was breaking down the pros and the cons? Yes. But that's not why that Ana is being played here. Because if that was why, the Ana would just stay here and shoot.
Right now, just swinging their hammers against each other, but Choxic really getting ahead on that Earthshatter's alarm, going to get the first pick, and that just feels so right for Fusion University. He's almost a DPS player. Second Wind struggling to maintain any sort of presence on at this point, but with this nano boost, though, they're going to even things up. That is 2 kills for Second Wind, and a sleeping Zarya is vulnerable to this hammer as well. The Earthshatter is going to get nice as well, so this Ana pick really paying off for Second Wind. It was looking bad. They pretty much lost the fight, but hey, Grandma says hello.
Yep.
Yep.
Hello, greetings, and instead of a little bit of money in your Christmas card, you get a big fist to the face. Frill really showing up there. What a fast nano boost charge. I really liked the lack of hesitation from Second Wind. They just went for it. Nano boost the Reinhardt. Just swing free, Akawa, swing free. And Fusion University not quite ready for it. We also saw a sleep dart that failed nice, even though he popped that graviton surge. No follow through. Second Wind live and capture point A in their very first push.
Frill will be going back to that Brigitte, and so Ana was a good pick for that first point, and so it's good to get that nano. He got those 2 kills, gets it really, really fast, sets him up for streaks phase really well as well. Second Wind now have a graviton surge and a self-destruct. Fusion University have 2 support ultimates.
The reason you get off the Ana here isn't just for fun, or isn't exactly what it's because is because if you get stalled there, it's a very close range fight where your team is going to have an extended goats fight where it's going to kind of be whose main tank dies first. And so you go Brig because you can actually duel with them, be up with them, and have the armor pack. It really has almost nothing to do with anything except for the map's geometry. And there isn't like extra angles really where the Ana can hit her antis. It's just the map's geometry changed so much that it doesn't help Ana anymore. And it actually even plays towards Brig's strengths.
Second Wind. Fusion University now coming up on their ultimate, so this is going to be a pretty even fight from both teams as Fusion University is going to grow and do the burn-our bomb against Taponzor. So Fusion University getting that 2 kills early on, so Second Wind only have 4 members left, and without a miracle bomb, Fried not getting the value he needed to put second burn-our bomb, so this is on the ground, and then there is that transcendence from Second Wind. University, Elk, and a Nice have their ult, so this is an opportunity for Fusion University to potentially...
Remember when I literally talked about like the scripted way, like you have 2 support ults, how do you use one as offensive? You make sure your enemy can all collapse on your whole team can all collapse on the same enemy and get that kill. That is not what happened here. Second Wind was actually kind of stabilizing, and you can see like Frill coming back to get some heals and stuff, and then they pop the Transcendence, which is such just the wrong choice, because you guys are now have to reverse your momentum and try and find a target to collapse on. Not, oh, there's a target to collapse on, everyone go and I'm going to Transcendence it in. And they're all close and they're all fighting, where in this case, like, it was essentially a wasted transcendence. And I don't see the vision as to why it was used, because it wasn't needed defensively, and it was not the time to use it offensively.
Start things off as we do see it.
Even if that's what they had really wanted to do, maybe they could have. I don't see it at all. This whole transcendence makes absolutely no sense to me.
Ground, and then there is that transcendence from second win.
No one's even getting healing. Like no one's injured.
University now coming up on their ultimate, so this is going to be a pretty even fight from both teams as Fusion University is going to grow and do the burn our bomb against Kotor. So Fusion University getting that.
It was really nice timing on the sound barrier. Like it, to me, felt like it should have been enough to block the Diva Bomb, and it probably was, but it's the fact that Fusion University was pumping so much damage at the same time as the Diva Bomb. And again, the reason why you do that, if you don't know, is if you drop your sound barrier towards the end, if you drop your sound barrier towards the end of a Diva Bomb, right before it blows, your sound barrier actually gives enough health to survive the Diva Bomb. Or if you drop it near the beginning because of the decay, it won't have enough health left to survive the Diva Bomb.
And now Fusion University are holding the advantage in their hands with 3 ultimates to their name. Most crucial, of course, Alarm's Transcendence. Got to keep an eye on that. But Chongsik, he hasn't really had a big shatter so far. He's going to be hungry to lay second win on their backs.
Chonksik's going to throw that shatter, get Mirror in the back, but that's going to be about it. He's going to be pretty protected, but Chonksik's going to get a kill on Brill. Fusion University using a couple ultimates in that fight. Second win, know that they were going to lose that, but unfortunately for them, they didn't get close enough to their ultimates to compete for this next one too.
Yeah, and that was a charge all the way into next Tuesday from Chongsik, but luckily the rest of his team had his
Just
back.
in case you're curious why they tell Rhines to unbind their shatter, or their charge, that's why. There was no advantage to that except feeding ults.
And the 2 Zenyatta's still holding on to all of that enlightenment. Fried, though, really close to that bomb. We could see a bigger bang combo open things up for second win. You know, Lordy knows that Fried has come up with some crazy lobs in the past.
Fusion University, though, will have both of their support ultimates online. A second win's ultimate's now going to be coming on a lot sooner than some might have expected. Second win now are going to have an opportunity to try to win this fight. Is nice to have. He's going to hold on to that Graviton Surge just a little bit longer. Second win, though, going to get some value out of Fried's bomb there. There's no Reinhardt available for Fusion University. The Earthshatter now onto Fusion University are going to knock 3 down, but Elk is able to use that sound there.
And I have to wonder if Second Wind talked about this, because what seems like it happened is it seems like the shatter was to prevent them from dying in the grav, but the transcendence was also to prevent them from dying in the grav. So it feels like they used 2 ults to save themselves from dying in a grav where Fusion University has no follow-up anyway. So it's unfortunate. I could see one or the other, definitely, but I don't see both in the slightest. Because look at this here. Who here is really going to do the damage? There is no Diva Bomb or anything coming in. You can very easily shield Zarya's damage. I just don't agree with using both of those ults at all.
Bomb there's no Reinhardt available for Fusion University. The Earthshatter now onto Fusion University are going to knock 3 down, but Elk is able to use that sound barrier to save them on the ground. And so this is just a brawl on the point right now, but Cyclones still have those numbers. And it looks like they're finally winning the war of attrition here. Snillo is going to be going down. Chongsik trying to do his best. At this point, he's just trying to look for getting that Earthshatter percentage as Fusion University are going to be pushed back.
Yeah, Chongsik searching for that Earthshatter percentage because he knows he's going to need it for that 3rd point hold. A second win look likely to take this, but no, some more bodies from the defense streaming back onto the point, but with the loss of Elk and a very late trans from Alarm. Interesting decision making. Fusion University want to stop the payload right here, but no, their bodies unfortunately can't last.
Well, with 23 seconds on the clock, it looks like Fusion University wanted to try an all-in effort to make sure that they gave themselves a chance to stop second win right here, but that's not what we're going to see. Second win will be grabbing the 2nd point, but Fusion University were able to take a lot of time off the clock. You don't get a ton when you do cap.
Chunked it all the way down to just 9 seconds in second win with about a minute and a half to try and finish out Hollywood. Great stagger kill onto Chongsik, just got a little bit unlucky there with the spawns, but second win have been largely depleted in terms of ultimates.
Just in case you guys don't understand, like, why did Fusion University throw so many ults there. What was that fight? It was pretty obvious that they were going to lose, etc., etc. It was almost 50 seconds off the clock. I mean, that's an entire team fight that they took off on this third point with a fight that they had already pretty much lost. So that's awesome. They got so much value out of a lost fight. It's insane.
Fusion University now going to be looking to make sure that they're going to find value out of the ultimates that they're coming up on. The self-destruct could be what they need to win this out in the end, because with 45 seconds left, second win are only going to have one more real engage and fight to finish this map. Fusion University know that, so they're giving them that space. They can hold in the back because the spawns are going to be better for them anyway if they're in a stalling situation. Haku does have that transcendence. Akawa did unleash that Earthshatter onto the Fusion University team, and Alarm, though, going to use that transcendence, going to keep everyone alive, and so the only investment that Fusion University had was with that transcendence, and though that means the Graviton Surge, Tran's not going to be there for it, but Bernard getting the kill onto Mirror, that is going to be a big first pick for Fusion University. It's a 6v5 for them on the payload with spawn advantages, so second win look like they will be falling in line after Mirror's death there. He is going to be switching to Wrecking Ball to try to get himself
And what you're seeing during this entire fight is just Fusion University in general and Alarm being fantastic. So you'll see that after his transcendence, Alarm backed up to here-ish, okay? And he moves around a little bit, but he has free range to shoot whoever he wants and discord whoever he wants that entire time. And it's beautiful. Every kill is from him, pretty much.
That means the Graviton Surge, Tran's not going to be there for it, but Bernard getting the kill on Mirror, that is going to be a big first pick for Fusion University. It's a 6v5.
Still back here, just shooting at whoever he wants. No one can stop him. Melting Frill.
Spawn advantages. So second win look like they will be falling in line after Mirror's death there. He is going to be switching to Wrecking Ball to try to get himself back onto the point, but with this Earthshatter from Johnson combined with another self-destruct now from Fry, it doesn't look like it's going to get any value. Fusion University now on overtime. They're looking strong to stop the second win from capping this third point.
Yeah, Fusion University ceding that space, like you said, Boop, realizing they had distance to give, but not too many more ultimates. So trading Akawa's Earthshatter for Elk's Sound Barrier was a really wise investment for Fusion University. This close is right to the killing zone. Their ultimates.
Fusion getting his second win is good. Actually, when I remember
up of time on Streets phase. Point A is where they gotta put their foot down here. Fusion University flying with that pharmacy in the air. Snillo on the Sombra going to be scouting things out.
And this is again the same thing. Like this isn't. This is very common to what happens to like defending teams, and it's almost the exact same thing that happened at Fusion University. On the first point, your enemy team can scout your comp, and if they like the comp they're on, awesome. If not, they can switch within like 2 seconds. And so, I mean, this is beautiful. Pharmacy Sombra versus like a full Goats comp. As long as that Sombra is getting some value, this is beautiful. I mean, what are they really going to do? And there's so many comments all the time about how, you know, Pharah doesn't do enough damage to capitalize on kills. And I mean, all I can really tell you is she 100% does. It was 100% shown in the World Cup and has 100% shown in every region of contenders. If you look at Korean contenders, a player like Water on Pharah, it has been ridiculous what he has been able to do, pretty much only against GOAT comps. And so this is beautiful. If this went any other way besides if like Second Wind was able to full hold, it would be shocking.
Ooh, Haku getting chunky down by Nice.
Yeah, Nice has had varying degrees of success with this Pharah. Honestly, he's probably gotten better usage out of that Pharah than other Pharahs that we've seen so far in North American contenders, but at times he has been shut down. You have to be accurate with those rockets. You've got to get to that rocket barrage very, very fast, hopefully within that first fight. We actually might be seeing that. He's going to be trying to get to the Brigitte there and make sure that Second Win is never going to be healthy before Fusion University actually do engage, and Akawa is going to go down, so this is looking good for Fusion University's attack.
Don't get me wrong. Second Wind played this not well. I don't want to say they played it bad, but they did not play it even close to perfectly. But there was no chance that they won this fight. Fusion University just did this so well, and it's the disadvantage of selecting your comp first. and not being able to change your count.
Seconds off of the clock. They've definitely lost this point, and once Akawa goes down, the capture will go Fusion University's way. Really good play from Nice right there. A lot of times, at least this is how I play Fire. You're just, throwing out some rockets, hoping to get that barrage really quickly. But you saw who he was targeting, taking down the backline of Second Wind, putting them under so much pressure that Haku can't peek to throw a volley in the Forest Fates, let alone throw Harmony Orb on his Reinhardt, forcing Second Wind's hand again, controlling the pacing of the fight. Second Wind had to go with the long high ground wrap around, and even so, Akawa getting booped away from the rest of his
So
team.
now, if you're Second Wind right here, you have to know that you're about to get EMP'd. It's not a secret. It's not being hidden from you. And so you need to be hiding your Lucio or your Zen if you intend to win that EMP'd fight. If you intend to lose that EMP fight, then do a full dive on the payload and go. Let them use their EMP and call it a day. If you intend to win it, though, you need to have your Lucio or your Zen hidden so that they can pop their ult to protect your team while they're EMP'd.
Are we going to see some Genji play?
Oh, really great.
Nope. Neither of them.
EMP from the high ground.
In fact, they were right next to each other. Even in like a master level, GM level, like that's whatever, it happens, right? In a contenders level, in a path to pro level, that's a throw. Unless they intended to lose that. I don't have that answer. But even if you intended to lose that, it's like, okay, so you lost it, but look at all the space that your team got. Or that their team got. And now, Fusion University is waiting for 2 of their players to respawn, so they're just kind of chilling. No one is going to be able to threaten this Winston enough to where he can't just jump out. It's just not going to happen. That was nice how he did that. Most people would have barely seen it that McCree's low because they would have been staring at their health bar. That was very clean. So now, if you're Second Wind here, you have to say, okay, we've been snowballed through this whole thing. They have out-ulted us, outplayed us. So what we need to do is we need to dig in with our goats, and we need to hold one of these corners here, and we need to out-ult them. We've been tracking ults. We know that they have almost none. It's almost always Ryan goats at the end here, so we know that they're not going to have any sort of shatter or anything like that. And if this is the corner they want to own, then that's fine. It's a corner, but that's what they need to do. They need to dig in, hold a spot, and ult them. And it sounds like, oh, wow, big brain. How do you know that? But it's just they've been trying to do this stuff against Afara, where they're flanking them, where they're taking the high ground. They've been trying to pressure the Winston on the high ground. You don't even need to pressure the high ground Winston on the second point half of the time because he can't even affect any of your team. And so I want to see them just play goats how it kind of started and how it's kind of been refined. Hold a spot and call it a day. And do you see what happened here? They pushed up, and they lost their corner, and they started to lose. So here we go, pushing up. I don't understand why. No one on Fusion University was low. I don't know who made that call. It was not the right call. It was so obvious, and they threw that for themselves. They had an amazing spot that they could have continued to hold, just like they did on that last fight, but instead they saw something, or their in-game leader called something, and they tried to go for it. And it's a textbook definition of high risk, high reward. Would it have been so clean if they had just wiped their team there? Yes. And if they had wiped their team there, might I be like, wow, that was nice? Yes. It was stupidly risky, and I would not want to see that.
When taken down and going back to spawn, so second win going to be struggling on this defense a little bit.
And now Diva's just going to die on point.
As well.
Hold them another 5-6 seconds.
Well prepared for the next barrage of ultimates when second win do get them.
Good move there from Fry, though. The rest of second win backing off, recognizing the lost fight, but Fry just stalling for as much time as humanly possible. Fusion University, though, getting to stage exactly where they want to. Nice.
Yeah, so that's what has happened here now. So now Fusion University can hold this corner on you. It's so unfortunate that second win did that. And you can see that's exactly what they're doing. They're holding this spot because this is a fantastic spot to hold.
The only question is, are you just sustaining, or can you actually find kills in that duration? That's what second win need to do to hold, but Frill goes down.
Frill going down early on in this fight. Fusion University have an easy opportunity for the yellow box of victory, but Fusion University needs to maintain. Here's the Earth Shatter from Akawa, not going to find any value. Akawa get taken very low. His shield is low as well, and they finally do finish him off. Nice getting that kill, and now the self-destructs are coming out. Bernard going to get two on that one, and they do make it to the yellow box of victory as Fusion University
Second wind
move up.
outplayed themselves on that second, third point. I think this goes to part 2 now. Yeah, it does.
So good in the quarterfinals, really gelling.
It's just so unfortunate so that we saw a totally different second win from the start to the end. At the start, we saw a second win that was clean, looked practiced, and everything. This isn't the right one, actually. And everything was fantastic. So we saw a second one that looked practiced, looked like they were running real strategies with flanks, with holding specific doorways, and then we never really saw that again from them. On their pushes, it just kind of felt like when they had lost the point or when they were attacking, it just kind of felt like they were going for a pick and doing their best to play off of that. And then on their defense, especially on that second point, it felt like they were scrambling the whole time to try and run a strategy that maybe wasn't as practiced as they need it to be. And when they got back to a classic strategy that they probably could hold, they outplayed themselves again.
Win, though, have another opportunity here on Hanamura to, shake things up. We used to see Widowmakers galore on this map, especially on the first point set up a crossfire. We may see a little bit of that today. Not quite sure we're going to be running like the, Akawa on the Ashe, but Fusion University, they're already set in their defense. They will have Snillo on the Ashe, Nice on the May, and Elk on Granny Amari.
Not an actual grandma.
Not an actual
grandma.
No,
yeah.
this is a false, it's just a colloquialism. We say it because we love her. But Snillo on this Ashe, really interesting to see how he's going to be setting up right here. This is one of the few times that we've actually seen Ashe played in NA.
This is one of the best maps to play an Ashe on, and you know why they're doing it? Because Second Wind has two choices if they want to run DPS here. They either play a Hanzo/Widow, which Ashe has the range to contest, or they play a McCree, which Ashe can hold her own to contest. And so it's fantastic. They say that you should be playing Ashe when you need longer range than a McCree, but not quite the range of a Widow, and that is exactly what you need here.
A contender so far, she's just enabled for the playoffs, and right now just trying to put in a little bit of chip damage, kind of just staying mobile, rotating, making sure that Second Wind can't pin her down, because even though she does have a lot more mobility with that coach gun, still can be a sitting duck if all of Second Wind just dive right on her. And speaking of dive, we got the traditional 2-2-2, going all the way back to those envious rogue days. And Frill on the Tracer and Mirror on the Genji. This is actually really great. Second Wind can just walk around Fusion University, pressure the point right away. Nice walls are going to be for naught.
Snillo doing a little bit of Boopasaurus cosplay there. I never hit the TNT. Snillo, though, only at 36%. The funny thing about Ashe is you're either getting that ultimate super fast or really, really slow. There doesn't seem to be a mid-ground because you have to be effective to be
that we're not even quite on track for a 2-minute ult right now, which is kind of crazy.
Those are some next level plays. They knew exactly where Snilla was going. As Haku gonna get 2 kills to start things off, so second win have an easy time on this.
And now the question is, did they know exactly where Snilla was going, or did they just dive her and call it a day? And I think the answer is that they just dived her, and she had 2 choices there: die to the Winston or go back through the door and die that way.
Right there where his Winston needed him, Akawa herded Snillo onto the point, and Akawa finished him off just like he did with the last defenders of Fusion University right there on point A. Now,
and this is what I was talking about. This is what I love to see out of second win, like on that first map. That was beautiful. They know that Ashe can only go one direction. They know that the Genji has already forced her off the high ground. They know that she isn't going to be holding on the right side. So let's look at this real quick. So quick in red, the place is covered. Ashe is realistically not going to be over here, or even up here, because of 2 reasons. One, over here is all covered by Tracer right now. They know that. Second Wind knows that. Fusion University knows that. Here, you're too easy of a dive target for the Winston and for the Genji together. Very, very low health that you can die almost instantly. Could they hold point? Maybe. Maybe, so we'll just leave it at that. So the obvious spot is for Ashe to be here. Or maybe like here. It just depends. But basically, this box right here is the obvious spot for Ashe to be in. And so you need to take out that Ashe when you hit this comp. I mean, that's your only choice. Otherwise, you're just going to be getting headshot the whole time. Your supports aren't going to be able to do very much. And you're just not going to get any value you need, and the enemy team is going to be getting a ton of value. So, what do? So first and foremost, have the Genji dash over. Have the Genji dash over to take away the high ground. So now this is gone, okay? Now, D.Va pressures you here. So now, this is gone. So the obvious choice and the correct choice is to circle back around or to go to the high ground. And risky either way. Like, at this point, you're probably dead either way. But circle back around is a great choice because you go around here and you can start hitting shots on your enemies and on the point again. And maybe even the supports, because Fusion University supports may be back here still. So you circle back around, you have a good time. Oh, mid-circle, there's Winston. So then you have to come this way. So you either stay here and die to a Winston, or you reverse your circle and go back here. Now this is what I mean when Second Wind played this perfectly, because Genji D.Va could not stay here. They couldn't just stay here and wait for the Ashe. There is other people on Second Wind that need to be contested and fought. So they have both left. They have both gone to point to fight whoever, but that's why you have the supports already looking down this way. And Winston just calls, oh yeah, I didn't get the kill. She's not coming my way. Couple shots over here, and that's the Ashe. Done. And that is a beautiful, big brain strategy that eliminates the Ashe right away. Everything is good, as opposed to just letting that Ashe farm you the whole game. And this is what I mean. I love it. I love it. That was so well played, the way that they closed. Look at this. The way that they closed all the range out. So here we go. Now we have to rotate. Nope. Not gonna happen. And not gonna go that way either. It's beautiful.
Right there where his, like he did, a little bit. We see all these hero swaps coming through. Snillo resetting to that Brigitte. Nice. Considering the Genji, now he's going to be on that Sombra, try and disable that cybernetic ninja, because Mirror's already nearly out of blades. played. That is going to be
That
huge.
was
Fusion
unfortunate.
University
That
does
was
have
nice.
that trance, but with Elk on the Ana, they lose out on the
Alarm and
Sound
Elk are
Barrier.
no
So
joke.
if Alarm gets spooked, has to pop that trance early, Second Wind might just get another free fight win. Frill now on the Doomfist, just looking for, his favorite companion, Walls.
Hey, him and Walls, what better combination for a Doomfist? Second Wind does have that Dragon Blade, and they do have a Transcendence to keep that Genji healthy as well, so we're going to expect to see those together after this hack does go down. If Fuhrer doesn't get taken down himself, is Chongsick going to get a little bit of help from Ana, get that nano boost on him, and the
I don't,
Transcendence is going to come out
again,
before
I
the
don't
Dragon
get the
Blade. So Second Wind's
Transcendence.
gonna Ana
It
get
was
out, does the
one
Transcendence
nanoed
keep
monkey
that
here, and that's
Genji
it.
healthy as well, so we're going to expect to see
You
the
can
Dragon
see
Blade, and
that
they do have
our
Transcendence
Winston
to keep that
forces,
Genji
second Wind
healthy
Winston
as well, so
forces
we're gonna expect to see
both
those
supports the
together
drop
after
down.
this hack does
So
go
it's
down. If Fuhrer
literally
doesn't
just
get
one
taken down himself,
Winston
is
here.
Chongsick gonna get a little bit of help from Ana, get that nano boost on him, and the Transcendence is gonna come out before the Dragon Blade, so Second Wind's gonna have to run that
I
Genji
understand, I
little bit
guess,
into the
they
rest
were
of the
worried
team
about
with
their
that Dragon
Lucio,
Blade when
but
that
I
finally
don't know.
does get
That's
unleashed.
so iffy.
Fusion University have a Transcendence of their own, which is an amazing counter for this Blade, and let's see if he's gonna go ahead and pop it. Doesn't look like it's so far, and I like the patience coming from Alarm. Some others in the audience would have just used the
I
Transcendence
agree.
on
Alarm
him.
played that excellently,
Man,
and I actually
Fear,
believe that
Alarm
Haku would have
probably
just thrown
not
the
feeling a little
Transcendence.
too frightened, startled, or may we say alarmed when Mirror dashed up in the air. He was a third health before he even hit the ground, and so Second Wind, unfortunately, they decided to try and throw out the Genji Blade, see what they could get. One of the options would be to wait until Twinzer had Sound Barrier, give the Genji a little bit of a comfortable cushion, but Second Wind, gonna swap back to that GOAT's composition. No surprises here. Fusion University, though, sticking with those heroes. They want to make usage of these ultimates. Nice, with the ability to turn all the lights off is going to be a big one. Free grab for Bernard. No worries about Fry's defense matrix.
So now, the entirety of Second Wind is taking the high ground, knowing that they're going to get EMP'd. Is it guaranteed that they're going to get EMP'd up there? No. But that's just risky. And you can actually see, and this is what I was talking about earlier, that this is what I wanted. Because at first I see this play, and I see the entire team here, and I think that they're just being dumb once again. Look where the Lucio is. He would never get EMP'd there, and he's close enough to speed in and Sound Barrier. It's beautiful. This is good. This is how, if Second Wind played this whole time, they wouldn't have had such a big problem on Hollywood Second.
Off of the clock for Second Wind, depending on how well they clean that up, but only if Nice finds value, which, he goes to TJ Maxx, he goes to Target, he knows what value looks like. And so Fusion University also have a Graviton Surge of their own, so they're going to go ahead and throw that out to start things off, and I like what
And you can still see it. Both Second Wind supports holding back.
Chongsick did jump over the shield to get some tickle damage. Remember that Tesla Cannon is one of the only things that is for sure damage. The EMP is going to come out as well, and we do see that cleanup.
Yeah, a very clean fight from Fusion University. It almost felt like Second Wind was just kind of letting it happen. The wind sometimes just blows you one direction. And the best news is that they drew out the EMP and the grab.
Yeah, so
sinking their
whatever
wise
the
moves,
overall
Second Wind
opinion on this match is, or whatever
coming their way as,
the commentators say, that was beautiful on Second Wind's part. They were ready for the EMP grab the entire time, and then when they realized that the EMP grab was going to beat them, they said, nope, we're good.
Elk's ability to keep Chongsick alive for ages with that nano boost, Snillo with the rally. It is going to be a long time until Second Wind have the upper hand.
And Elk has probably stayed in this corner for the majority of this round so far, as he's gotten another nano boost already. Fusion University have a lot at their disposal for this, and the rally is going to be the first thing that they do invest in this Second Wind engagement. And we're going to see rallies coming from both sides. Second Wind getting close to the Graviton Surge, but so is Fusion University, and that's going to be Bernard on that.
That's brutal. That was beautiful.
Make some noise in the backline of Second Wind. The Primal Rage does end, but not before Akawa goes back to Smog, as Fusion University know that they have
That was beautiful. I mean, for anyone that didn't see it, this is just crazy. So we get Elk's perspective, which Elk is a fantastic player, but isn't the best perspective to appreciate what was going on in this fight. Both teams are popping ults and having a full team fight over here. And so we actually end up with a primaling monkey who, instead of jumping on the Second Wind supports, maybe not getting anything, he probably knows that they're close to their ults if they don't have them already, especially the Sound Barrier, because they've been holding that for a minute. He pops his ult, and just backs up.
And the rally's going to be the first thing that they do invest in.
So there it is, popped right there. So 1,000 health right now. You would think he's going to go in hard on that. He's got a rally coming behind him. He's got a lot coming behind him. But instead, he just runs away over to here and just chills. So now Second Wind has two choices at this point. They might think that he ran away because of low health. Maybe they didn't get to call it. Maybe they weren't paying close enough attention. So they may push in. Alternatively, if they know what he's doing, they can just wait here and continue to lose their shield and kind of get farmed. So either way, it was a horrible situation for them, but they arguably made the worst choice, assuming that they knew his health. He just sits here and waits for a good target. There's the main tank, knocks him, juggles him into the entire team. Ana can sleep him, nano him, the entire team can melt him. Fusion University was ready for this play. They were all holding back here. It was beautiful. There is no doubt that this is something that they either thought of, whether it was communicated in the moment, practiced before, but communicated it very well, and it was a beautiful play.
Make some noise in the backline of Second Wind. The Primal Rage does end, but not before Akawa goes back to Smog, as Fusion University know that they have an advantage. They didn't invest a ton into it, but Second Wind is going to use that sound barrier to try to keep onto this objective, but with a nice Z-Mag onto Nice, Fried is going to give them an opportunity, but there are no more ultimates for Second Wind, and with that kill onto Frill, that tells me that try to keep onto this objective, but with a nice Z-Mag onto Nice.
I don't totally understand these ults, only because this is 2CP. It's going to be really tough for them to win like this.
To keep onto this objective, but with a nice Z-Mag onto Nice.
This was really nice. The bubble drop. I mean, wow. Fusion University is just insane. But I mean, so this is a pro play that you will see, but that doesn't mean it wasn't beautiful. Bubble drop and anti, so there's no way at all that Frill is getting healed. Even if Frill was not antied, would not be getting healed right now because the bubble is changing the line of sight. Outside of the bubble, Frill's in the bubble. And I mean, beautiful. I don't agree that Second Wind should have ulted there anyway, but they did, and Fusion University so massively outplayed those ultimates, it was beautiful.
Looking less and less likely as time ticks on, Boop. They do have time, Second Wind. If you're a really good top tier Zarya, which Mirror surely is, you can get a grab within 60, 90 seconds. Fusion University, though, you talked about that ultimate cycling. They still have three, and it was a decisive win right there. Second Wind trying to make something happen with Fried's bomb. Japones are even throwing that sound barrier in, but Fusion University didn't want to hear the music. They stand strong here, and now Bernard ready with that grab, and no transcendence on the side for Second Wind.
That has been bad news for other teams in the past. We do see Cino drop that rally, so the damage mitigation is going to be there for everyone except for Elk at this time. Bernard still has that Graviton Surge. Second Wind doesn't have that Transcendence just yet, but it will be available when Bernard does finally throw it out, if Haku's able to get a little bit more healing. But no, it's not going to be there. It's going to be a little bit late, and they are able to get Frill before the Transcendence comes up. Haku making a decision there not to use that Transcendence. It did pop up. He's going to have it for the next fight.
He's going to have it for the next fight, but Alarm well too. This is the thing. Second Wind trying to build up their banks. Each time they, just invest one or two ultimates here or there, but same could be said for Fusion University. And right now, they are at an ultimate stalemate. Neither side really having a decisive advantage, but no, as the graph does come back up, Second Wind, coming forward with a couple more. But of course, we've seen it happen.
No, I mean, that's just
with first generation.
not accurate. Second Wind has so big of an ultimate advantage here. Realistically, they have all six because that Lucio's going to charge so fast.
Just 1 minute left. Could be dragging out probably surely into overtime here. So Second Wind need more tools in the bank.
And remember, Fusion University are
I may be wrong in saying this 100%. I think Second Wind should have gone back to their dive. I understand this is a tough point to dive and stuff, but they absolutely got farmed by Elk and Alarm in the back.
Are unable to get a tick on the second point. They're not going to be looking good to try to get that victory. The Earth Shatter from Chongsik gonna miss. That's exactly what Second Wind needs. Akawa, though, his is gonna miss.
So Second Wind has now thrown 4 ults. Infusion University has now thrown 3, and arguably gotten more value out of their ults. And so that's just a real bummer. 5 ults
Now we're gonna see the self-destructs find anything, but
and nothing.
so this is the best opportunity for a second when they have to invest everything they got in this fight. The sound barrier is gonna be the next thing.
Nothing from the ults, which is a bummer because that means that they did not play together how they needed to. They didn't plan those how they needed to, because they just let 6 ults get beat really by 4.
So Fusion University are going to get the team wipe. You hear the chime, and after 10 more seconds, Second Wind's attack will be over, but will they be able to get into overtime? Mirror will be able to touch the point.
What a sleep from Elk right there, neutering Second Wind's advantage, and then Fusion University now have all 6 healthy, wholehearted members ready for this defense.
And the only reason that their ults lost there is because they were getting farmed by Alarm and Elk in the back the whole time.
For them as well.
Dan running a combo on say cheese. That's going to be one defensive ability off of the table, and Second Wind have very few to give.
And remember, folks, May is one of the only characters in the game that can play for the opposing team with those walls. So you got to be really, really careful on that May. But Mirror is going to be pushing the damage.
And this is
nice
beautiful.
exactly what that team comp looks like, and it's going to switch
This
right
is what I talked about last game on Hollywood. I love it. They realize that this is a scary situation to be in, Fusion does, and so they go right back and switch.
University coming in with the full disruption composition, flankers galore with the Sombra, Genji, and Chongsik on the Hammond, try and knock all of Second Wind up into the air, disrupt that Orisa, force her to drop down onto the low ground where she doesn't want to. Second Wind, this is all about the rotation. They must be able to rotate discipline because so many people are depending upon that single Orisa shield, and although the cooldown is, pretty fast, you can't move it once you drop it, so you can leave yourself extremely vulnerable if you make the wrong first move.
And so Haku's going to get the first pick of Second Wind's defense, but the thing is, Fusion University know the comp that they're going against, and they have the right team comp to handle it. They all just need to pile on this Bastion, burst them down, and Second Wind's going to fall apart at the seams. They have to get to the Bastion first. If they're taking half of their health and damage, it's going to be really hard to do just that.
But Genji, Shuriken, and Mirror in the behind, but he's not worried. He knows that the rest
So this is all, like, if you're wondering like why I'm not talking about this, like, this is all just kind of the poke phase still. They're not starting a real big fight yet. This was nice because he was preparing to Defense Matrix the actual dive that's going to happen, but got seen.
is going to fall to Pride to just play keep away, play bouncer here, keep everybody.
And that's what this is. This is all of Fusion just getting in position, building ults, whatever it is that they think that they need to take this out. They're getting ready for that. They're not, and there is a couple ways they could take this out. They can do the full dive, and that's what, as they mentioned, that is oftentimes the right choice. It's a little bit difficult to cycle onto point here sometimes because the D.Va can contest the point, but if you really, and the Bastion can still shoot at the point. It's very different than when you try this on like a King's Row, where the Bastion can't always hit the whole point, and then you can melt the D.Va and cap the point, and the Bastion has to come to point, because on this map it's so much closer, and it's so, the Bastion gets really full sight lines that a full dive, in my opinion, that is exactly the way I would be trying to stop this as well.
And although Second Wind, don't really have too many ultimates to speak of, Mirror close to his, Tapones are close to his as well. They have bought so much time off of the clock, but nice. Look at.
And that's what you can see, just getting in position. Lucio will frag from the middle. Genji would have been like back here.
He nearly has the blade and no fried. He's out of the mech. He's down.
So now this is good. Now they can just hit point because someone has to drop to contest it.
With Fried being down, that means this match is going to be a lot easier to take, but with the nano boost along with tank mode, he's going to be pushing out that damage as well, but a good sleep.
Beautiful.
That means that nano is going to be wasted. He was woken up, I think maybe with the deflect.
And now you see they had to rotate out of where they don't want to be. Scripted. Fusion University literally did that textbook. They did that the perfect way. They chilled, they got into position, they farmed the D.Va, who has to be down, has to contest. And we're seeing Second One try and cheese this again. They're going to pull out the Sim to try and teleport their Bastion around, which can be really strong. We saw this quite a few times with some different 3 stacks on Twitch, and now in Contenders a couple times. This isn't a comp with the intention to go down. It's the intention that they can move so much. But this is what, in second wind again, kind of outplayed themselves. Why Frill would teleport over to the other side right here, I will never understand. You hold the teleport and you wait until the enemy uses their cooldowns to dive you.
University not making any swap ups for point B. Again, they have ultimates online. And second win, hey, if you're gonna go down, you want to go
this
down with
makes
style,
absolutely no sense. Wasted teleport. Teleporter, which is the only thing your team needs to win this. Nothing.
Between those two pieces of high ground, but Tone's down. Oh my goodness.
And if they were worried about the EMP, then they really needed to be paying attention to see when it was going to happen.
Crazier things have happened in Overwatch, but look at this. Mirror is taken so low, but they haven't gotten to the objective just yet. Kotor is back, and with Nice going down, this is an opportunity for second win to potentially hold on to this defense. But now with the res onto Haku, this means that this might be down to a couple support players and a hamster, as Frill is going to get the headshot onto Elk. So second win are going to be able to come back on this defense. It was looking grim for them, but Fusion University are having a hard time actually capping it.
No, oh my goodness, Frill coming up with the clutch kill, taking Ana out of the equation. Elk falling to that sniper, and Akawa with 2 kills. Oh my goodness, second win with their grasping like toenails. Managed to hold on to this defense. Look how close Fusion University was to taking that tick. Oh my goodness, I am just so sweaty right now. But second wind, it looks like they're not really rattled. Some crazy picks. Mirror, for reals, the Torbjorn, okay. You certainly do have an advantage against somebody like Blade and Genji.
This is happening.
It's happening, folks. Oh my.
The other big advantage to this, if second wind isn't just memeing now, is that the turret can stop a lot of hex, because it'll shoot Sombra as soon as she starts decloaking.
University, they have so many tools online. Second win have to know that it would take a miracle to hold here. No trance, no Valk just yet. And Fusion University barreling in with 4 ultimates, a trance of their own, the nano, the EMP. If Snillo lands a big fatty EMP here and Nice blades into it, it's all over for second win.
Let's see if that is going to be the case, Miss Ham Tornado. But
and you can see that second wind is spreading out here. And it's not for fun. It's because they're worried about that EMP and blade. And especially if it's like an EMP nano blade, that's so tough to stop.
Valkyrie and Trans, and that has been enough in the past. And also they do have vision right now. This is something that not a lot of teams get to have in this GOATS.
So again, this is only like the 20th time we've talked about it. What needs to happen here is second wind has to farm that Transcendence right now. They need it at this second. They need to be working around their Zen, making sure he's shielded, can get free shots, so that he has his Transcendence. From there, he needs to stay away from the EMP. If you can do that, you win. At least a fight.
Meta is information that's readily available to them, just like infrared hacks would give you. And with the headshot onto Nice, Fusion University, you're going to have to wait another 20 seconds to do this again.
There we go. Frill taking some celebratory squats. That's right, with a single click. That is the power of a Widowmaker. Second win just took off the head of Fusion University's most deadly weapon. And again now, 3 minutes, 15 seconds for Fusion University to make their move. But they have so many tools. They can take the time.
Another kind of interesting strategy that we've seen a few times now is Torb farming his ult and then throwing it all under the supports right when the blade comes out. Because it will kill a blading Genji. Nano blading Genji can probably still get the kills he needs. I don't understand exactly how second wind didn't see this coming. The Widow has been getting so much value. I would have never had the Widow be alone here. Was it very clean on Fusion University's part? Yes. But kind of crazy. Like D.Va's spray checking the point. Why would... I don't get it.
Some time as well to get to their ultimates, but they're not charging fast enough. They're still only repping those 2 support ultimates, as Snillo is going to get behind Frill and take him down. So this is 65 for Fusion University on their attack. They still have those 5 ultimates. Topones who are on Haku are going to need to find a ton of that.
And what you can see is that we have talked about this. Haku's on this side, the rest of the team is generally on this side.
On these ultimates, Haku can use that trance to try to keep the rest of the team alive. A mirror is going to fall because of the transcendence. The rest is going to go off onto mirror, so this is evened up for second win of Fusion University. Remember,
that was perfect because they couldn't get
The
EMP'd.
finals as the ultimate, the boils are all over the ground. The floor is made of lava, but no, Bernard is going to get that self-destruct onto Deponzer, so no mercy for them. But at least the res was already used. Skrill has no idea where this Genji is and somehow does come back alive. And
Nice shot.
turnaround kill onto Knives. That is huge. Second win now, evening things up. This is a brawl, but that's going to help the defense.
But now it's EMP and they have nothing. So they need to be so spread out right now. It's not even funny.
Of utter nonsense, Boop. I'm just gonna say it. Wow, second win.
While Fusion University did have an ult advantage, their ult advantage didn't matter because Second Wind had ults that countered it and had gameplay decisions that countered it.
And it's so refreshing to see those DPS players step back into those shoes and take the fight in their hands. However, Second Wind, they've won a lot
You
of
can
fights
see
this year.
Winner just shooting around the point, really hoping to hit that Sombra.
Fusion University still have the threat of a Genji Blade and Snillo.
Oh my gosh.
The
Oh my god. There we go.
Oh, there is the EMP. It will be taken. The Torbjorn, but Nice is going to go down early. But Haku dying, which
There it is. EMP's a game-winning fight.
And I hear you, Ham. This is bad.
And it's
for them.
scary.
Haku's gonna have to use the Transcendence to keep everyone else alive. This is all up to Akawa and Haku to stall on the point to keep Fusion University out of the finals for the time being. But that's not what we're going to see as Fusion University sweeps Second Wins, the first of 3. And
It's unfortunate, but when the enemy team has 2 team wiping offensive ults, you have to really play around them. And the easiest way to play around them is to have 2 team saving defensive ults. But Second Wind decided they wanted to play the Mercy, and they did get value out of the Mercy reses. But when you can't stop a Nanoblade and an EMP, there's nothing to be done. It's the same thing that many teams have tried, and what they generally got outplayed by was either 2 support ults or 2 ults that can stop those ults. And my favorite example of this is you have a Zen and a Zarya against literally Fusion University's comp. Okay? And then so here's what you do. Well, now they don't have Diana, but imagine they still have Diana. So the Nano Blade comes, and you actually grab the Nano Blade. And so that gets rid of that one, and gets rid of one ult on your team. Then the EMP comes, and you actually Transcendence the EMP. From there, you have all ults that aren't generally going to wipe your team. Because this team is going to have... Because we're only worried about team wiping ults here, right? So this team, pretty much no matter what, is going to have another defensive ult. So that's not going to wipe your team, generally. It can happen, but we're speaking in terms of ults that will usually wipe your team. From there, they'll usually have a Ryan, an Orisa, or a Winston, who their ult should not wipe your team, or with the exception of Ryan, maybe if you don't block it, whatever, you know, but it shouldn't be the team wiping ult. So really, you've eliminated both DPS ults, 1 support ult, 1 tank ult. So they're going to have a second support. That could be an Ana, a Mercy, a Moira, but it's not going to be a team wiping ult. There just isn't a support who really has one. And they're going to have another tank. So maybe that's a Grav or a Diva Bomb, but at that point that means you only really need to outplay 1 ult. As far as just worrying about team wipes. And you still have your 4 more ults to do that. And yes, you might have to use some of your 4 to outplay some of these, but as crazy as it sounds, Zarya using her Grav as a defensive ult is actually how Second Wind would have won this if they wanted to run the Mercy. Alternatively, they would have run the Lucio and had 2 support ults and try and avoid both team wipe ults that way. Overall, Fusion University played better. They had more coordination, but why I wanted to look at Second Wind is that they had some huge strategies that were very nice, that were scripted, and I would love to see even better teams with better communication continue to follow those strategies. And I wanted people to see kind of what Second Wind did that they may have lost either way. I'm not saying that Second Wind is better than Fusion University and should have won this. What I'm saying is that Second Wind almost, not intentionally, but almost threw multiple fights because of what they did. They had like great positioning multiple times and they would get rid of it. They know that they're going to get hit with 2 team wiping ults and they don't have a counter for it. Obviously, this is not the right screen to show that. Neither is that. Yeah. So they know they're going to be hit with 2 team wipe ults. You kind of have to count the Ana in that too, because that's what leads to Blade being a team wipe often. And they don't have anything for it. They only have 1 block. So if we're just going through this, like logically, okay, so we counter the EMP with our trans. What do we do now when we get nano bladed? There is nothing to do except just play better, which is not a legitimate strategy that's going to win them this. And so I want you guys to see that Second Wind could have won this. They had some great offensive strategy. They had some really good and well executed plans. Even on like Hollywood, they had like a really nice corner that they held that they won the fight, but then they decided to push past it. And I don't know why. I don't know what happened. I don't know if Second Wind just wasn't as practiced as they need to be, but Second Wind lost this for themselves. On their attack on this point, they lost it to Alarm and Elk. And they never countered them. They never switched to anything to go kill Alarm and Elk. It would have been the same difference if Frill kept popping off and Snillo and Nas didn't go for him. It's just ridiculous. And so I love Fusion University. They played so well. They deserved this win. They had amazing plays, amazing strategies. But part of the reason why is that they countered their enemy. Second Wind played what they wanted and called it a day.